Cam Ward just let the Tennessee Titans know they'd be making a big mistake if they passed on him. I'll tell you what he said on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, we're going to take a look at Cam Ward's threat to the Tennessee Titans and the rest of the NFL. We're going to talk about the upside conversation surrounding the top two quarterbacks and do a little update on the franchise tag and why some Titans fans' dreams may have turned into a nightmare. Before we get into all of it, do want to thank you for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one because there's breaking news all the time this time of year. I have bonus episodes whenever big stuff drops. Plus, there's free agency, the draft, roster decisions, so much going on. You want to make sure you're the most informed Tennessee Titans fan that you could possibly be, and you'll get that here with the Locked On Titans podcast. But with that being said, Cam Ward officially let NFL teams know that you'd be making a big mistake if you passed on me. And Ward talked to ESPN, and he said, okay, you're either going to draft me or you're not. If you don't draft me, that's your fault. You've got to remember, you're the same team that's got to play me for the rest of my career. And I'll remember that. That's the quote from Cam Ward. And look, we'll say this up top. Josh Rosen said, I'm going to remember all the teams that passed on me. There are plenty of examples of people saying, hey, this and that, I'll remember. And then they didn't turn anything. But there's also the Amon-Ra St. Brown situations where he can name the 20 wide receivers that got drafted in front of him, and he's one of the best players in the entire NFL. The Tennessee Titans took Des Fitzpatrick, traded up to take Des Fitzpatrick in front of Amon-Ra St. Brown, to the dismay of a lot of people, not just me at the time. But anyways, moving right along. The point is, I get that Cam Ward saying, hey, you pass on me, you're going to regret it. I'll remember that. That doesn't mean that Cam Ward's going to be great. But it does let me dip my toe in to this conversation. I'm going to be honest. I'm scared to pass on quarterback. Look, I think that Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft. Travis Hunter, I got some things in my mind that I want to say about Travis Hunter. We don't talk enough about Travis Hunter as an option for the Titans. I think people are scared away from the cornerback situation, but I have thoughts on that I'll get to at a later time. But the point is, I want the Titans to do the best thing for the Tennessee Titans' future. Right now, I believe that that's Abdul Carter. I believe that that's Travis Hunter. I believe that's a trade back. But we have to acknowledge here, even people who agree with me, even people who are on the Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter trade down train, even people who are aboard, who have had their ticket punched, we have to admit that there's a chance that passing on a quarterback is a terrible decision. Now, we're talking about Cam Ward. And listen, I think Cam Ward has higher upside than Shedeur Sanders. I think that's obvious to me, and we're going to talk about the upside conversation and how there's people in the Tennessee Titans organization that have a lot to say that have done it both ways. But outside of the upside conversation, whether we're talking about Cam Ward, because he's the one who made the comments, whether we're talking about a Shedeur Sanders, which, again, I continue to say my preference is Abdul Carter, trade down, Travis Hunter. But if the Titans love one of these quarterbacks and fall in love with them during the meetings and already like their tape, then take the quarterback. I'm down for it. I'm in. I'm ready to ride. All right. But I have to tell you, even while preferring Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter in the trade back, I can't sit here and lie to you guys and tell you that I'm not scared to pass on a quarterback. I'm not scared for a double negative for you guys. I am a bit worried about passing on the quarterbacks. I certainly am. The Titans clearly have a big need there. And while all the things that I've said that lead me to prefer the player trade down route, all of those things are true. The Titans don't have a good enough roster to fully support a quarterback. The Tennessee Titans need to trade back, maximize as many picks as they can possibly get, which they've told us they want to do, so that they can build out a roster that's far away. But the reality is we could sit here and I could predict and tell you what, this and that, but the reality is we can't know. And needing a quarterback as desperately as the Titans do, and needing some pop, man. The Titans are one of the most boring teams ever. Like, having Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward doesn't have all the pizzazz that Shedeur Sanders' name has because Sanders is Deion Sanders' son. He's a more popular person, just in general speaking. But Cam Ward has some swagger to him, and a comment like this, and the way that he carries himself and the self-confidence that he has, like, that can make him a monster star as well. And there's big-time upside here with a guy like Cam Ward. And there's a consistency factor with a guy like Shedeur Sanders that, again, I still prefer the option to pass on quarterback. But we cannot sit here and lie and act like you're not at least a little bit worried about passing on that quarterback. Just a little bit scared. There's already the Titans self-hate of, if we take him, he'll suck. If we pass, he'll be great. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. We're Titans fans. It's tough out here. It's never easy. It always goes wrong. I get it. But at the end of the day, man, it would be tough to be in Mike Borgonzi's shoes right now. Because all of the concerns that people who want quarterback, all of those concerns that they bring up, they're valid concerns. Are you going to be in a position to get a good quarterback next year? Are you going to be able to get enough in a trade to allow you to make a trade next year to get a quarterback? Are you certain that the quarterbacks next year are going to be any better? Like, those are all valid concerns to have. So if you're the Tennessee Titans, again, I do not envy the job that Mike Borgonzi has here. We can talk about the possibilities, talk about our preferences, talk about our opinions, but Mike Borgonzi has to make this decision. And if he were to pass on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and one or both of those guys turns into good NFL quarterbacks that are consistent starters that you can build a team around, well, he is going to look like a moron. And ultimately, that's probably going to get him fired in a couple of years. If Cam Ward is a Pro Bowl level quarterback, or Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowl level quarterback, and they lead their teams to playoff appearances, while the Titans are still in the bottom of the league in 2 years, Mike Borgonzi's probably going to get fired for that. So it's definitely a dangerous, dangerous game to play. And I guess I'm just here to admit that while I still prefer the other route, passing on quarterback, again, is a dangerous, dangerous game. But with that being said, let's talk about the upside of these quarterbacks, because I think it's really going to matter when the Titans make their final decision behind closed doors. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Cam Ward's threat to the Tennessee Titans and the fear of passing on a quarterback, even if people say it's not a good draft, blah, 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 this and that. You're passing on a quarterback when you need one. It's definitely a scary situation. But now I want to move to a conversation more about the difference between these quarterbacks. And people are going to go back and forth, and there's going to be a lot of argument, a lot of discussion about which quarterback the Titans should prefer. And honestly, I see it both ways, and I see a path to both of these quarterbacks being good players. But to me, there is one thing that is undeniable, and it's probably going to keep the Titans up because I have a feeling I know where the Tennessee Titans lean. But the undeniable fact that we're going to discuss will probably make them have some pause. So here's the fact, and here's the reality. Cam Ward has higher upside than Shedeur Sanders. Now, you could say that Shedeur Sanders' readiness and all these other things are going to ultimately matter more. Listen, talent doesn't always work out. Having the guy who's the better player, more reliable player, more consistent player right now, okay, I get that. Sometimes that's what works. It's not, Trey Lance didn't work out. Brock Purdy did. It's not always the guy with all the talent in the world that works. Like, I understand that. But it is undeniable that Cam Ward has higher upside. He has a stronger arm. He's more mobile. I don't think either of these guys is Lamar Jackson by any means, but I would compare Shedeur Sanders' mobility to like Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow, where Cam Ward, in my opinion, has the ability to be a Dak Prescott or a Jalen Hurts. So I think with the added mobility, even if it's not, this huge monster gap, Cam Ward is the more mobile, athletic player. He has a stronger arm. He has better playmaking ability. The best version, if you took the best version, the very best version of Cam Ward in the NFL against the very best version of Shedeur Sanders at the NFL level, Cam Ward is the better player. Cam Ward would be with, again, the Jalen Hurts, the Justin Herberts, right outside of the elites, the best version of him. I think the Shedeur Sanders is probably a couple of ticks below that because of the limited arm strength. And I don't mean limited into he's got a noodle arm. It's not that bad, but it's just not on Cam Ward's level. Cam Ward has a stronger arm and he's a more mobile player. He's a bigger player. So the upside, undeniably, is higher with Cam Ward. There's no doubt about that. And when the Tennessee Titans go to take a quarterback, number 1 overall, they're going to say, man, this player fits Callahan's system better. This player maybe more reliable, more accurate. The things Brian Callahan likes, he's got more of them. Still a good player in his own right. But, man, we're passing up on this guy who could potentially be one of the best talents at the position in the entire NFL. So, it's hard when something is telling you, hey, this guy fits way better. But, man, this guy's talent, if it ever goes right. And if you're the Titans and you have Mike Borgonzi as your new general manager, Mike Borgonzi went out and got Patrick Mahomes. He didn't go after. He wasn't with the Chiefs when they went after the guy who maybe was a better fit when they had Alex Smith at the time. Going out and get a rookie quarterback who was more like Alex Smith. They said, no, we're going to bet on the undeniable talent. A guy who I really like his draft content, Emory Hunt. Recently, he compared Cam Ward to Patrick Mahomes. A guy who spotty record in college, but has some elite traits. Not a freak mobile guy like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Not a freak like that, but obviously can make you play, can play make, can throw the ball from all different angles. Like Cam Ward has such high-end upside that Mike Borgonzi might look at that and say, hey, the other guy may be a better fit. But if we're picking a quarterback number 1 overall, we can't pass on this level of talent and what this could be. even at the risk of, here's my thing, the Titans are already taking a risk by taking a quarterback in this draft class. It's much more risky to take either of these two quarterbacks high in this class than it would have been than to take Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Drake May last year high in that class. This is a much more risky draft class. Again, that's undeniable. So if you're going to take a risk anyway, no matter who you pick, why not take the risk on the higher upside? Now, the thing about that is why Mike Borgonzi was around for the Patrick Mahomes situation, and I think the Titans would love to get Derek Carr and Cam Ward at the same time and let Derek Carr play right away, let Cam Ward sit a little bit, and then put him in later. I think that would be their ideal situation. But on the other hand, Brian Callahan came from Cincinnati, where Joe Burrow is a better athlete than people give him credit for, and his ability to maneuver in a pocket is way underrated by some people. He's a pocket Jedi. Joe Burrow is no, super mobile quarterback, but his ability to kind of dip, duck, dive, dodge, and dip, like the 5 Ds of dodgeball, his ability to do those in the pocket is a special, special talent. And I think Shedeur Sanders maybe isn't on that level, but he has the ability to be with a little bit better protection. Now, he'll drift, and he does hold the ball too long. He's not quite as good in the pocket as a guy like Joe Burrow, but I think that's the vision. And when Brian Callahan is talking about precision, timing, accuracy, the things he's looking for, and he looks at Joe Burrow, who is the perfect quarterback for him, he says, well, I don't care that Cam Ward is a little bit better of an athlete. Shedeur Sanders can use his legs to pick up key first downs. Shedeur Sanders has playmaking ability to make something out of nothing if the play breaks down. Shedeur Sanders may not have the strongest arm ever, but he can make all the throws. I don't need the high upside guy. I had Joe Burrow, who's more like Shedeur Sanders, so give me that. So you have Brian Callahan, who's done it this way, Mike Borgonzi, who's done it the other way, and then the upside conversation, it makes for a difficult choice. And let me also say this. I will continue to say that I think it's dangerous to draft a quarterback number 1 overall who fits your head coach's system better when your head coach is on the hot seat. Brian Callahan may not be the head coach by the time that the rookie quarterback gets to play. So you're going to pass on the higher upside guy for a guy who's a better fit with a coach that may not be your coach in a calendar year. That is a dangerous game too. So again, I prefer Cam Ward. I lean Cam Ward. But the point is, I totally understand both sides of it. But at the end of the day, the reason I lean Cam Ward, despite Shedeur Sanders being a better fit, is because Cam Ward has high-end upside to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think the best version of Shedeur Sanders is probably just a second-tier quarterback. That's where I'm at right now. So with that being said, though, franchise tag window is open in the NFL. Got some bad news for Tennessee Titans fans and maybe some even worse news on the way. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss opening tip-off, you could still bet on a fourth quarter comeback and stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you could combine your live bets for a same game parlay. I love a same game parlay. I also love using FanDuel's live betting feature, again, because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team to make a late game rally or looking for a player to hit a clutch 3, Luka Doncic, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Cam Ward's threat to the NFL and the Tennessee Titans and why it makes you be a little scared about passing on a quarterback. We talked about the upside conversation between the two teams and why there are multiple people in the organization who have seen it go different ways. But now I want to transition to something that's a little more topical in terms of happening right now in the NFL, and the franchise tag window open. I talked about it at the beginning of yesterday's show, but the reality is that the Tennessee Titans are not going to be using the franchise tag. They should not use the franchise tag. So it's not really something that Titans fans need to worry about in terms of the Titans roster. But there is some news that we got that could make some Tennessee Titans fans upset. And it is that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be using the franchise tag on T. Higgins for a second year in a row, as reported by Locked On Bengals host James Rapine. But I don't think that T. Higgins was as hot of a topic this year for Tennessee Titans fans because they signed Calvin Ridley after the season the Titans had last year. There's just not as much of an appetite to go out and be super aggressive. I think most of the fan base has said, okay, yeah, they got to take a step back. Going all out in free agency didn't work. Doing it again doesn't make a lot of sense. So there isn't like Titans fans desperately wanting T. Higgins, but there definitely is a contingent, and T. Higgins has been a focus target for the Tennessee Titans fan base for multiple seasons now. He's from Tennessee, the Brian Callahan connection, his skill set, and how it would fit with the Tennessee Titans. So it all makes sense. But the reality is the Cincinnati Bengals absolutely cannot let T. Higgins go. They simply can't. So they throw the franchise tag on him. That'll give him an opportunity to get a long-term deal worked out. I know that you could instantly say, well, it also gives them the ability to trade T. Higgins. And I guess maybe that is what happens, but I just doubt it. I think with the pressure that Joe Burrow is putting on the Cincinnati Bengals to keep the core intact, I think T. Higgins ultimately does stay with the Cincinnati Bengals and they get a long-term deal done. But it is a possibility that he gets traded. But even if he does get traded, I don't think it's going to be the Tennessee Titans. The Titans aren't giving up draft capital to go after T. Higgins and then giving him a big-time contract after saying that they want 12 top 100 picks in the next 3 years and saying that they need to be less aggressive in free agency and signing Calvin Ridley to a $90 million contract last all season. You just simply can't pay both of those guys at the same time and build a competent roster like they need to. And that kind of an aggressive move is just not in line with where the Tennessee Titans need to go right now as a franchise. So I guess I'm here to tell you that if you wanted to see T. Higgins on the Tennessee Titans, your dream is basically dead. And I'm somebody who was interested in that too. I wanted T. Higgins last off season. That was my number one target for the Titans if he was going to become available. He didn't become available, and looky here, he didn't become available once again. So that dream basically died. What I think Tennessee Titans fans need to worry about now more with the franchise tag window is Trey Smith, the all-pro right guard for the Kansas City Chiefs, former Tennessee Volunteer. Very high on my wish list for free agency. If the Titans make one big move in free agency, which I think they will, Trey Smith needs to be that move. Solidify him at right guard. Then you get a value deal at right tackle with a veteran. You also draft an offensive tackle early in the draft, and then you attack it that way. So Trey Smith at this time, there's some conversation that the Kansas City Chiefs may use, maybe not the franchise tag, which is like $21 to $23 million for a guard. I think it's an average of the top 5 at the position. They could use the transition tag, which is the average of the top 10 at the position, and it functions kind of like the franchise tag does. There's a little more wiggle room in terms of the transition tag. But either way, it gives the team the ability to match any kind of deal that a club would give. If you give a transition tag, they can go out, talk to another team, but it gives the Chiefs the right to match. So it really covers them there. That may happen. All right. That may happen. So if Trey Smith doesn't become available, I think the Titans have to consider bringing back Dylan Ravens. Because at that point, I don't see anybody else on the guard market who I want to give a bunch of money to long-term. Mekhi Becton has been a flaky guy throughout his career, goes to Philadelphia, wins a championship. Sure, that's Philadelphia. All right? That's not the situation the Titans are in to keep him in check and have a strong locker room and all of that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Kevin Zeitler was a guy that Matt Bowen from ESPN called a perfect fit for the Titans in his free agency preview thing. Kevin Zeitler is going to be 35 this season. Why would the Titans go out and sign a 35-year-old guard? Doesn't make any sense at all. So I just think Pickens or slim at guard if the Tennessee Titans don't end up with Trey Smith. And we'll talk about that when we do our free agency preview, which I plan to start either later this week or at the beginning of next week as well, just kind of how the days work out. But with that being said, no franchise tag for the Titans, no T. Higgins, maybe no Trey Smith. It could be a sad franchise tag window, but we'll keep an eye on it. And if anything happens, obviously, I'll be here to break it all down. But that is going to do it for me today, folks. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.